Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a sci-fi movie review and I'll be having a look at The Postman starring Kevin Costner. So this movie was made in 1997 and it actually takes place in the year 2013. And guess which year I'm recording this video in? That's right, 2013. So I always think it's quite amusing actually having a look at what they actually expected to kind of the world to be looking like in this, just a few years' time. Anyway, so what we've got here is a sort of post-apocalypse world. It's actually a Kevin Costner directed film as well, and it's basically sort of coming off the back of the success he had with kind of Dances of Wolves and these kind of epic films that sort of Kevin Costner was kind of known for sort of at this sort of period of time. And basically Kevin Costner is the main sort of character who is kind of this drifter who basically ends up sort of getting recruited into this kind of like militia that's ultimately kind of running post-apocalyptic type, area in the US. He doesn't want to do that. They're kind of quite tyrannical, and they're led by a guy called Bethlehem, played by Will Patton. He sort of escapes and sort of happens across an old postman's uniform with a kind of in a post truck, and sort of dons the uniform and basically pretends that there's been a government sort of set up and he's kind of delivering the mail or this kind of like post bag that he's found in this van and what have you, in really just an attempt to sort of get food and stuff like that. However, it works a little bit too well and ends up kind of really sort of getting the hopes up of all these kind of local towns that are in this kind of post-apocalyptic world. And it ends up taking a bit of a life on its own and people sort of wanting to sort of be postmen. He ends up setting up a kind of rudimentary sort of communication system throughout the sort of US, which ultimately would lead to, I guess, to the sort of the reformation of an actual government. And he's kind of unwittingly doing this and sort of basically just blagging it at the beginning. And he's kind of spurred along by kind of a sort of group of followers, most notably his sort of second in command called a guy called Ford Mercury, I think his name is, and he's really the sort of one that really sort of ultimately sort of pushes the movement. You've also kind of got a kind of subplot here with a kind of romance where he sort of impregnates a woman in the local town, and the sort of final confrontation with Bethlehem, who is this kind of, as I say, this ruling warlord ultimately. Now this film actually got a lot of flack when it came out, but I will say I'm actually in the camp, but I actually quite enjoyed this film. There's a bit of a guilty pleasure because I kind of like this movie. Now, I will say this, let's get the negatives out of the way first of all. This film doesn't need to be as long as it is. There are quite a lot of sections, I think certainly at the beginning, and there's a sort of section sort of it kind of in the winter where I think he's basically after a sort of mid-film confrontation with Bethlehem. There's a period where Kevin Costner's wounded and he sort of ends up in a cabin. That could be cut out, I think, and it wouldn't affect the film. And it just makes it a bit of a longer film, just to have it that kind of long, epic film sake. So the first, my criticism is it's too long, and I think it could be cut down. The second criticism I would acknowledge, it's a bit schmaltzy. So there's quite a lot of, of overly top schmaltzy moments. If I just pick one scene at the end where there's a kind of unveil a statue of the postman, sort of picking up this letter from this young boy and things like that, even though I don't know how they would actually know that ever happened, since at this point he's dead and the young boy's grown up and doesn't even realise that was him. But anyway, there's lots of moments like that where it's kind of a little bit cheesy, just a little bit too sort of sentimental for its own good. And I guess the third criticism, and this is going to be a matter of taste, and I've left this one till last because I'm in two minds about this, but the final confrontation between Bethlehem and the postman, we have these sort of two armies sort of coming together, and there's never actually a battle. All you have is a kind of a one-on-one, very short fist fight between these two sort of lead characters. And at the time I was kind of quite disappointed because you may be looking forward to this kind of like this sort of big apocalyptic battle scene that never actually sort of happens. But now I've kind of, a little bit later on, a little bit older, I thought maybe I appreciate it a little bit more because it's obviously a little bit different to what we've sort of seen, or maybe what we'd expect in these sort of films. Nevertheless, I do think it can be a little bit disappointing if you were kind of getting amped up, ready to expect this sort of thing. But I actually quite like the film. As I say, I thought Kevin Costner's character, the postman, was a really interesting character. He's kind of a bit of a morally grey character, certainly through the majority of the film, and only kind of really sort of becoming a more heroic figure sort of towards the end. You know, it's an interesting, I think, idea, and it's actually quite an upbeat film at the end of the day. It's kind of one of these sort of almost feel-good films, and this kind of goes hand in hand. What I've said, it being a little bit schmaltzy, but I do think it's the actual storyline is a sort of, you know, it's a story of hope and kind of looking at the sort of the you know, the best parts and the worst parts of the sort of humanity. So I actually did enjoy this film. So I'm going to give this one a 6.5 out of 10. I do think it's got its problems, but I think it's a better than average film, and certainly doesn't deserve all the sort of criticism that it kind of gets. So what did you think of it? What's your opinion on The Postman? Leave me a comment, and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.